Okay, so the camera's rolling, and we're going to turn it over to Will.
All right, how's everybody doing? Good, excellent. So my chapter that I'm just leading a brief reflection on together is chapter 2 of Living the Gospel as a Way of Life. This is building a spiritual culture. Pretty short thing that Mr. Jones has to say, but I think it's important. Some things that I thought were interesting was he was asking, he's basically proposing what I see as like an incarnational principle of how we build culture, whether that's like in large groups and the macro vision or what we're trying to do here, family to family, individual to individual. How is a sacramental view of building community life maybe different than how we usually talk about? He makes the distinction of sort of maybe incorrect views of how we use the term spiritual today. So 2 examples he used there were an immaterial sense of spiritual, something opposed to the physical, like a spiritual connection with. I think that that's an interesting thing he points out. You know, I know like a lot of my peers and friends would, you know, they'll say that they're, you know, don't want to be adherent to a particular type of denomination or disciplined spirituality, but in some ways they'll talk about like a spiritual thing as this elevated, almost like to the negation of the body, the material world, the life that we live right here, versus the Catholic sense is grace building on nature, grace building on our life, on the reality of the day-to-day things that you and I have to do, inviting Jesus into that. And then the other sense of spiritual, he talked about the thing we hear all the time, I'm spiritual but not religious. What does all this tie together with? Paul's message in Corinthians, if I can do all of these miraculous things and have not love, I am nothing. Love has legs. Love has to walk the talk. So that's basically what he's challenging us in this chapter is how can we integrate that? How can we incarnate the gospel as we're building community in our individual families and in our community that we're doing right here? Like, we can't change the church macro level. We are the church here in Albuquerque. How can we integrate that call of the gospel and intentionally loving each other and growing as we are now? I really like this quote by Carol Houselander that was embedded in the text here. I'm just going to read from the last sentence of it. Our Lord gave himself to us through our flesh and blood. We give ourselves back to him through it. The symbols of the gift of his own life are bread, wine, water, and oil. We give our life back to him through the dust he made us out of. Through everything we see and touch and taste and hear, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the words we speak, the sleep we sleep, such are the sacramentals of our love. Things ordinary with the ordinariness of the risen Christ. And I would just like to keep my reflection on this pretty short because I think most of the fruitfulness is going to come from our discussion afterwards. But I think one of the things that really changed the way I started to see things about what's my role in building community, what's my role in loving Christ in my daily life was reading some of the documents of the church where they talk about the family as the cell of society. Like we're the micro level, like the plant-based level, the molecular level of building up culture. And for some reason I had never heard it put that way. which makes what we're doing essential. And I think that maybe in closing in my prayer, I was drawn to the idea of what does that look like when love has legs, when you walk the talk. I think it's the visitation. Mary, the mother of Jesus, the first Christian, doesn't say, "Oh, that's nice, Elizabeth's going to have a baby, and I'm going to have God grow inside me for 9 months. Everyone's going to be okay." What does she do? She gets on a donkey, she goes maybe to a part of the world she had never been to maybe a cousin she never met in person, and she declares the gospel. And what does that do? I think it goes to Carol Houselander's image of God talking through our flesh. John the Baptist jumps inside Elizabeth. The moment that I heard your voice, the babe leapt in my womb. Our voice, our bodies, our lives, the sacrifice of our time given to God is what this is all about. So I think that our discussion will maybe open that up further, but this is what jumped out to me about the chapter.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah.